Nigeria, by extension, Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, are the heartbeat of many economy. They create jobs and drive local innovation and support millions of households. But in 2025, many of these enterprises are struggling to breathe. From erratic power supply and high inflation to policy inconsistency and limited access to finance, Nigeria MSMEs are navigating a tough terrain. To add to that, the rising cost of technology, insecurity in key regions, and global supply chain disruption, among other issues. Well, it's another episode on your favorite primetime show. My name is Messi Ebokpo, and today we're discussing how MSMEs can drive growth through innovation, resilience, and smart scaling. Remember, the Ways is all about you. You are the why in the Ways. All you need to do today is just join the conversation now and add your voice. Now, you can do that by heading over to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. I'd like to hear your thoughts when the phone lines are open about this particular topic. As always, I'd like you to ponder on my quote for today. To build a business successfully, you must start small and dream big. In a journey of entrepreneurship, tenacity of purpose is supreme. Aliko Dangote is quoted on that one. We'll delve into this much later, but first off, I'd have to run off on a break, and when I return, I'll tell you what I found in the news. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways, hashtag, what are you saying? Well, this is what I found in the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed into law 4 major tax reform bills aimed at overhauling Nigeria's fiscal revenue system. Now, these laws, the Nigerian Tax Act, so you have the new laws as the Nigerian Tax Act, the Tax Administration Act, the Revenue Service Act, and the Joint Revenue Board Act. It's expected to improve tax collection, reduce leakages, and boost government revenue. Well, the presidency says these reforms are part of Tinubu's broader economic agenda to ensure fiscal sustainability and economic growth. That's exactly what this is about. However, fingers are crossed, and we'll see how this translates to the life of the people, the economy, because at the end of the day, you look at the policies, how is it affecting the people in real time, as what Nigerians are looking forward to. Now, another one, another news or story that I found quite, heartbreaking. UNICEF has revealed that over 2 million children are out of school in Nigeria. That's in the northern the northeastern part of Nigeria, specifically Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe State. Now, this figure was disclosed by the chief of UNICEF Meduguri Field Office at a media dialogue in Damaturu. The field officer emphasized the urgent need to address the deepening educational crisis, highlighting that children in conflict-affected areas, face multiple challenges, from disrupted schooling to lack of access to basic services. You think about it, every war-torn area, wherever there's dispute and conflict, you find out that you can't live life on a normal term. And so life is not the same, just as it would be in other parts that are not experiencing all of this conflict and terrorism and banditry and what have you. It's really, really unfortunate, very saddening to know that 2 million children are out of school. Meanwhile, 20 million children are really out of school nationally. That's nationwide in the country, and this is according to UNICEF. But we hope that, all hands will be on deck, government, individuals, everyone will just, swing into action. But how can that be if security is actually not addressed? Because security is the beginning and almost the end of everything. Now, this feels like a very cherry one. I'm a very big fan of the Super Eagles. Hopefully, we see how this pans out. The Super Eagles goalkeeper, Stanley Nwabali, the one that we call the keeper, the saver, the one that... Even though some people think he's literally... not been delivering in recent times, that he's overly confident. But that's a conversation for another day. He has expressed a strong belief about Nigeria's chance of qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Let's see how that pans out. Some people say talk is cheap. The Chippa United shortstopper believes that the team will secure their place at the tournament by October. October is almost here, and fingers across Nwabali, the Nigerian, Super Eagles fans and everybody, your fans will come at you if this does not become a reality. He says that the Super Eagles will bounce back in the latter part of the qualifying, to qualify for the campaign, stressing that the players understand what is at stake and are determined not to miss out on the world's biggest football stage. It would really, really be gladdening for me and every other person, I'm sure, to see Nigeria make it or qualify for the World Cup. That's in 2026. Well, that's so much that I can take at this point in time. I'll take a quick break, and when I return, we're delving straight to the crux of the matter for today. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Welcome back. You're still watching Ways hashtag What Are You Saying? In case you just tuned in. And tonight we're talking about SMEs in Nigeria and how they can thrive in this economy, quite struggling. Plus, of course, tomorrow is going to be, remembered as the World Day for SMEs. It's a day that has been set aside to recognize all of these businesses, small, medium enterprises. However, in Nigeria, SMEs are the backbone of the economy. And other economies accounting for over 96% of all businesses and contributing nearly 50% to the national GDP. Now, they employ about 84% of the country's workforce, cutting across sectors such as agriculture, fashion, ICT, hospitality, and manufacturing. Despite being the backbone of Nigeria's economy, MSMEs face serious challenges, but survival and growth are still possible. And to tell us how is Precious Adesina-Ola, the head of growth, Suppliers Technologies. Precious, it's really good to have you join me tonight on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mercy. It's a pleasure.
Yes. All right. So just like you heard in my introduction, tomorrow is World SMEs Day, if I'm not, if I'm correct. But so I'd like us to start on this particular note. How would you describe the current state of MSMEs in Nigeria?
So, you started with, some numbers and statistics, which were quite correct. And, for MSMEs in Nigeria, on the one hand, I would say that it's a vibrant and innovative sector. If anybody walks out of their house and looks down their streets, you will see a cluster of MSMEs ranging from the medium-scale businesses to the micro to the small businesses. These businesses power our livelihoods as Nigerians. So it goes without saying that, they are the backbone of the country, really, right? Fashion brands, tech-enabled logistics businesses, agri-tech businesses, name it. But in all of these things, what we are seeing is, the spirit of entrepreneurship being pushed through. So on the one hand, we have this vibrant MSME sector that is sort of sustaining the economy. Because if you think about it, what would we do as a nation without all these small businesses as a result of the lack of infrastructure and some of the expected resources that are supposed to have been provided by government? People have taken the baton and decided to make those provisions for themselves, hence the MSME sector, right? On the other hand, we have this vibrant economy that I just described, grappling and striving to survive. There is a strive for survival daily, so there's limited access to affordable financing, which is one of the major issues that MSMEs face. Let's not even talk about infrastructure, inconsistent power supply that has lingered for ages, So many of these MSMEs still struggle to scale beyond this survival mode that I've just described. And it goes without saying that there's a need for support, in this system with infrastructure. That said, you also mentioned during the news that some bills have been signed into play by the president. So gradually, hopefully, with many government schemes coming on board and the increasing digital economy, I think that what MSMEs need now to thrive is targeted policy intervention. Starting from what the bills that the president just signed, that's a good sign. Infrastructure investments. Beyond having startups that are innovating around logistics, the roads on which those bikes, those trucks will ride needs to be provided for, right? And then last but not least, capacity building, the resources that is needed in terms of human beings to continue to sustain and drive this economy is something that would definitely add to the growth potential of the MSME sector. Thank you.
Well, so but in all that you have mentioned and all that you have stated, how is there even, possibility that MSMEs can actually thrive with all of these challenges, poor infrastructure, road, epileptic power supply, and all of some of these policies that also affect the MSMEs. So how can they thrive and survive in such an economy?
Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, the MSMEs have to find a way. And one of the things that are coming out very strongly for MSMEs these days is the access to the digital economy. So leveraging technology is something that MSMEs can use to improve and remain, in business for a long time. Gone are the days where you needed to be a full structured enterprise to be able to run adverts, for example. Nowadays, from the comfort of your phone, you can run adverts, which means you can literally reach anybody anywhere in the world, right? The budget for that is another conversation, but in terms of the access to reach, it's there. So this is just one way of leveraging technology to, do better, to improve, to scale, right? So adopting digital tools is something that MSMEs can use to improve. Building digital presence and footprints, this can help them to also gain the necessary awareness that they need to thrive and grow. Then we can move on to other things like access to financing. As a small business, how do you access financing to grow? Initially it was you needed to go to the banks, but now there are very many other ways that you could access financing. For example, you could apply for grants. There are venture capitalists that want to invest in businesses. There are DFI bodies, and then also there are the fintechs that have come in to disrupt the banking or the finance sector, where the MSMEs didn't really have, the upper hand. For example, taking the requirements that they needed to access loans, the fintechs have come to disrupt that part by helping some of these MSMEs to access loans with minimal requirements. So again, there are a lot of things that MSMEs can do to thrive. However, depending on the kind of MSME that it is, or the sector that they play in, they could leverage things like the digital economy and access to affordable financing through technology as well.
All right, so you talked about leveraging technology. I'd like you to, speak further to that. How can MSMEs leverage technology? How can they use technology? For instance, maybe a fashion brand or someone who is who sells food. I mean, how can they leverage technology, to thrive?
Fantastic. So they can leverage technology by incorporating tech in their business. And it comes down to one of the major problems of MSMEs or SMEs generally is that when it comes to structure and operations, we don't think big just yet until things start to get out of hand. But hopefully, and in most recent times, there are tools, digital tools that have been able to help MSMEs coordinate their business in such a way that technology becomes a part of it. So for example, businesses that use POS and do not collect cash can minimize theft or discrepancies in their finances at their storefront or in their business by saying, we don't collect cash here. So incorporating a POS machine or collecting only transfers is a valid way of enabling that business using technology. Another thing is having online presence. So there's social media and many social media platforms where MSMEs in fashion, in food can showcase themselves. But beyond that is also having your own social or your own web presence. So having a website or building a storefront that enables people to shop on your platform with or without coming to your store is another gateway to, thriving. Collaborations between businesses and partnerships that are doing things that could also attract people that could bring customers to your business, and leveraging that collaboration to reach more people is a way to thrive. So for example, if you're in the medical space, you could collaborate with an influencer who is a medical doctor, and reach his audience and then get more people to hear about your products and then, generate more sales. So all of these things are kind of intertwined, and we do them with technology from the comfort of our phones, with our laptops. So again, incorporating some of these things in terms of social media use, in terms of web presence, in terms of incorporating fintech resources, both hardware and software, in MSME businesses, whether it's fashion or food vendors, can definitely improve the MSME business.
So I mean, every other time we talk about tech, social media, there's always, everyone would say, okay, you need to get on social media. But then again, the algorithms would always be, just whilst I was talking to you, I just, the memes, the recent memes that are just crazy just popped up on my, in my head, and just saying you're a business owner, you're thinking about putting your business, and the algorithms are looking at you like, you're not ready yet. So that's on a lighter note. So, the algorithms would always hide posts, especially when they are not paid for. So how can small businesses work with the algorithm instead of against them? I mean, how do they do that? Because again, those who are in business, is always a way to find, it's that you're finding ways to maximize profit, right? And in an economy where there's a lot that's going on, the people want to maximize profit. So yes, the ads have to be paid for. The algorithm would always be there. So how can this work? How can this be?
I mean, I think the oldest form of lead generation is referral, right? You tell somebody tells somebody, tell a friend to tell a friend. I think small business owners, medium-scale business owners, MSMEs, even big businesses should never be ashamed of, advertising or speaking about or announcing their. And if all else fails, if the algorithm fails, if something happens and everything goes south on the internet, you still have your word of mouth, right? So it's important that you develop systems as a business. And these are some of the things that, enterprise or legacy businesses have used to survive 100 years, 250 years. They develop systems. You hear of, a brand that started out as something in somebody's kitchen and has now stayed for 90 years, is no longer operating the way it started operating when it was in that kitchen. It has developed systems that has enabled that brand to rinse and repeat in different markets, in different places, right? So as a small business, you need to begin to think like that, even when you're still operating from quote and unquote your kitchen. So what do? You don't get tired of talking about your business. You don't get tired of telling people about your business. You don't get tired of even continuously using the platforms that we just mentioned, social media, the internet, to drive organic engagement, to continue to leave your footprint, to show presence. And whether or not the wave of the algorithm comes and goes, you are there. So it's a case of making sure that whenever people are looking for me, I'm here. It's one thing for the algorithm not to be working in your favor. It's another thing for you not to be present, right? So you need to develop systems that will enable you consistently remain relevant. So systems of traditional referrals, system of technology, using technology to continue to engage, to continue to be present. And then, of course, part of developing the system implies that with time, you must set aside a budget, no matter how little, to help you boost whatever you've been able to build. So you're doing word of mouth, you're doing engagements that is organic. You're not doing a lot of ad spends, but you are putting something in it. It's like little drops of water makes, the ocean. And then eventually your footprints begin to spread. And over time, when they are looking for your kind of businesses, you begin to rank, right? So it's not a short-term thing. The algorithm will always change. New concepts, new technology, AI, will always come up. But small businesses, MSMEs need to be able to develop systems that will enable them to continue to exist and remain relevant in the sector.
Okay, I like us to speak, further. I want you to speak further to, let's talk about strategies now in terms of, posting. Are there certain strategies or are there type of content that small businesses can actually post? Or is there something they need to know in terms of posting? Or is it that you just need to just have a social media presence and just post? So I like you to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So beyond social media, right? The concept of, MSMEs thriving is not limited to their activities on social media. There are strategies that, they must be able to execute or implement in their businesses to enable them thrive. We've talked quite extensively about social media and, how it helps MSMEs, right? But there are other things. We've also touched lightly on access to smart financing for expansion, right? But beyond smart financing is looking at how the things that you're doing as an MSME are things that you can leverage when you even want to access this financing. So one of the strategies that MSMEs must adopt or develop is integrity, business integrity. Right? It's one thing to say, I don't have access to affordable financing, but when the affordable financing comes or presents itself, are you qualified? Do you have what it takes to be able to access the funds? Are your books in check? Do you have records? Do you understand? Have you borrowed before and didn't pay back? Did you pay back and close out correctly? Stuff like that. These are strategies. So in terms of your business operations, you must be ethical in your approach to doing business. Another thing you must do in terms of strategy is to think about how you can do a lot with the little that you have. As an SME, you don't have a lot to hire for all the roles that there is in the world, right? We just talked about how leveraging social media can help you cut on the traditional advertising budget. So you must look at how can I start lean, right, and grow in iterations and expand as the need comes up in my business. That's the strategy. It means that you understand that your business growth and expansion is in phases, and you must leverage your smallness to do as much as you can with the little that you have per time. So this includes, recruitment, assets, purchase, and all of that. So staying lean and flexible is also a major strategy. And finally, back to what we were saying about, your outlook in the general economic sphere, you must be able to invest in branding and customer experience. So beyond keeping your books, being ready for financing and being that business that is ready to move to the next level when the opportunity presents itself, what do people say about your brand? That word of mouth marketing or word of mouth referrals that even if the internet shuts down today, we can all go back to what our forefathers did. How will people talk about your brand? What would they say? Oh, would they say this brand is good, or my experience with this brand is like this? So that in itself is a strategy for sustainability. You must be able to define what you want your brand to be remembered for and push for it, as the leader of the business, down your entire business value chain. So these are some of the strategies that MSMEs can imbibe.
All right, so Precious, we'll just take this particular one, this question, and then afterwards we'll go on a short break. You also did talk about digital tools. I'd like you to mention the digital tools that are available that SMEs or MSMEs can actually leverage on to grow their businesses and thrive in 2025 in Nigeria?
Fantastic. So in the fintech space, for example, there are lots of, there's a lot of innovation around that. We have accounting apps, we have business process apps, we have payment collection apps, that's APIs that can be integrated into businesses, the back-end accounting platform of different businesses to help them to minimize all the manual hazards that they need to undergo to keep their books in order. So that's on the one side. But generally, I always say that small businesses can start with, all these, what's it called? Tools that are not paid for. So social media, for example, is free. And I always come back to social media because it's something that everybody can relate to, right? You don't need any particular sign-off to, put your business on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, depending on where your audience is. Or you can even put across all platforms and be more active on one particular platform. So that in itself is a tool, is an advertising tool, is an engagement tool. It is a front store, right? So even before you build a website, you can start with social media and people can begin to engage with you as a business. People can know what you're about, DM you and all of that. That's a tool, right? When people hear social media, they think it's just, all fun and bands, but it's actually a full part, like a full-fledged function in a business, handling social media, how people perceive this business, what do people see about the business. So that's a tool on how that you can use freely to present yourself to the world. Beyond that, you can build other things. You can, incorporate accounting tools, like I mentioned, finance and payment tools to ease the operations of your business. And then there are some businesses now that, with their hardware, you can actually get reports on a daily basis at the end of the day. Some fintechs have POSs that at the end of the day, you can print your daily reports, and know what you started the day with and closed the day with. So these are tools that MSMEs can incorporate. Beyond that, there are other tools that involves like cybersecurity tools to protect different parts of the business, but that will be going too deep. So basically, I think start with social media tools that help you to present yourself as a business, and tools that help you to keep your records and your finances in check as a business. They're very available online. You can find different ones. In Nigeria, there are a couple of them, locally founded, foreign ones, free to use, etc.
All right, Precious, we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, the conversation continues right here. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Well, thank you for staying tuned. If you've just tuned in, we're talking about how micro, small, medium enterprises can actually grow economically through the adaptation of smart and innovative strategies. And making sense of all of that, or shedding more light, is with us is precious Adesina-Ola. I hope I got that correctly. Well, don't forget that you can be part of the conversation. If you do have any question to ask or you have any contribution to make, whatever it is that you have, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. All you need to do is send us a message via WhatsApp or SMS. The number is 081 803846 and 63. SMS or WhatsApp to the number 081 8038 and 4663. That's the number to send your messages to. Now, the phone lines are also open. It means that you can call us and be part of the show. 070-250077 and 49 or 070-142424 and 20. I take the number again, 070-250077 and 49. The number to call to be part of the show, or you can also dial the number 070-1424 and 24 and 20. Let's hear what you have to say. Precious, once again, thank you for joining me tonight and being part of this of the show.
For having me, Messi.
Great. Now, just before that break, I remember very well that you did talk about smart financing. So again, I would ask, how can SMEs or MSMEs access smart financing?
Thank you very much. So I think that first of all, as an MSME, you must understand the kind of business that you do. I don't like to put them under the same blankets of I need finance. Are you looking for finance for inventory purchase? Are you looking for finance for assets, purchase? Are you looking for finance to help you deliver on an LPU that you just received? So MSMEs must be specific about the kind of financing that they need. They need to understand their business and understand that there are different types of financing that they can access. And this makes it easier for them to know where to look, right? So, for example, if you're looking for inventory financing, LPO financing, that's the kind of thing that my company does. We finance traders, MSMEs in the open markets, people that buy and sell. The volume of business ranging from 150,000 to 50 million, depending on what you're doing in your business, right? That's what Suppliers Technologies does. Some other financing companies could specialize in asset financing, where they can give you money to enable you purchase an asset to help your business grow. So you want to buy a bus to improve your delivery, you want to buy a bike to be able to reach people in rural areas, stuff like that. There are businesses or financial institutions that are tailored to provide that access to finance. And then, of course, there are other means of accessing finance. There's grants. So there are organizations that are focused on helping MSMEs to grow and scale, right? So at different stages, at different levels, you can access grants, which is why I earlier mentioned that your books need to be, in place. You need to keep your house in order, because that's the first, level to these things. If you have access to get a grant and there are discrepancies in your financial records, then you miss out on that opportunity because you haven't done your homework, right? So beyond grants, there are also nowadays there are different ecosystems of venture capitalists that are looking for viable and prospective businesses that they can invest in. So if you've gotten to that stage as well, you could also qualify to, get into the pool where such investors can look at your business and, invest in it for some equity, on a larger scale. So like I mentioned, there are different ways that MSMEs can access financing, but it starts with keeping your books in order so that when the opportunity comes, you can leverage the opportunity, and also knowing the kind of business that you do and looking for the kind of financing that caters to your business.
Okay, so quick one. Let's talk about customer experience. I'd like you to share with me a terrible or horrible customer experience that you've had. You literally don't have to mention the brand, but I'd like to hear your horrible customer experience.
Wow. Okay, so I'll say that in recent times, I experienced something at one of the financial institutions, that has physical outlets. I'm not going to say whether it's a big one or a small one. And it wasn't very palatable. And I remember very clearly that one of the reasons why I started out as a customer of this brand in the first place was because of this customer service that endeared me to them in my days as a university student, right? And 10, 15 years down the line, I'm there, and it's far from, what they started with, which goes to, again, to show that it's possible to start out something and then somewhere along the line your system gets broken. So it's also very important to have compliance checks in place for your business with regards to customer service. So yeah, that's it. I'm not calling names, I'm not mentioning brands, but it was with a financial institution and it wasn't a palatable one. It had to do with waiting for too long for something that could have taken maybe 10 minutes. And, the culture and the attitude of the people was also not something that would make me want to go back there. And I just felt bad for the brand because that's not what they were known for ab initio.
Well, I was looking forward to something very dramatic, but then again, it looks like, but from your explanation, it looks like I have an idea of, the institution that you're talking about. Trust me. Okay, that's on a lighter note, by the way. But then again, what exactly would you say that MSMEs are actually doing? I mean, so if you literally have the opportunity to speak to them right now and say, maybe you have them in a room, and what would you say? What do you think is the mistake that they do the most, and what would you tell them to correct?
I would say that they need to collaborate more. I think that MSMEs are underplaying the advantage of collaboration, and well, good news is some are already picking this up, right? So give you the typical bread and beans example. I sell bread, you sell beans. There's no point cooking beans or you going to buy bread. Let's just work together because we have the same customers. If they buy your beans, they must buy bread to eat it, right? So MSMEs must learn to collaborate. What do you do that the customers of this other MSME needs, and how can you, cross-pollinate each other to achieve the end goal, which is growth. You want to grow, you want to thrive, you want to remain a sustainable business, right? So beyond competing and all those kind of stuff, you must learn to collaborate. I think another thing is that they must begin to look at how they can preserve systems. So if you find what's working in your MSME, in your business, you don't change it, improve on it. But first and foremost, document it so that you do not forget it, right? It's not trial and error. It's not by luck. So you did it, it worked. Note it and make sure that you have it in a place where you continuously refer to it. How did it work? What made it work? At what time did it work? And then you can build from there, right? And you find that might just unlock, a lot of other opportunities for you in your business. So I'd say two things: collaboration and developing systems and preserving those systems within their businesses.
I remember when we started off, you had spoken briefly to, government and what they should do. But let's get back to it now. On this side of the divide, as we coast the conversation down, what again would you say to the government? What role do you think that government should, or what one thing would you ask the government to pay attention to, to ensure that MSMEs actually have a favorable environment for their businesses to thrive?
Yeah, so the tax reform bills, again, is a good place to start. right? But beyond that is also the tax reform bills is literally a let the poor breathe moment for MSMEs as it is now. Because, if people begin to look at it and what it can do for their business, they can begin to say, oh, okay, so I have breathing space. I can take a break from this. I can, improve on this. I don't need to worry about this for now, right? Another thing that the government should do is infrastructural investments. So, it goes without saying, yes, we have some areas on band A now, but is there, consistent power supply? The answer remains no. Beyond the consistent power supply is, the affordability of the power. Anyway, we have people on band A now, businesses that have to turn off their fridge, for example, because of the cost of running, the running cost, of electricity and all of that. So whatever it is that the government is doing with regards to managing our inflation and, controlling it from continuous skyrocketing, they should just do it, because it's at this point in time, it's just survival. MSMEs are in survival mode. So yeah, infrastructure in terms of road access, road network, and good roads, so that when somebody even gets funding to buy assets like bikes and buses, there are good roads that these facilities, these assets can run on, and they can minimize the cost of maintaining them. And then if inflation also is managed, then the interest rates will not be so high, so that businesses can borrow and pay back easily and continue to, grow their businesses. So I think those are the things that I think that government can do. Of course, acknowledging that the tax reform bills have just been passed, which is a step in the right direction. But in terms of infrastructure, more still needs to be done. And then making, access to financing affordable is also something that can be controlled from the government's perspective.
So, in this climate, it's usually very easy for you to hear people say, go start a business, and then there's a lot of motivation about the you see those 9 to 5, like those who are, when I just remember some of this motivation, it just crack me up so deeply, right? That they're not stopping you from achieving your dreams and what have you. But you have been, in this whole SMA business, I don't know for how long, but I'd like you to share one lesson about growing and developing a business. You think that, business owners, let's just use the word as it is, whether small, micro, medium, business owners, would one lesson that you think they need to hear at the moment?
So in my career, I've been privileged to work with a lot of small businesses, medium businesses, and even enterprise businesses, like, on a larger scale. And I can categorically tell you that, let me speak pidgin now, we are in Nigeria. You don't get where it easy. You don't get where it easy, right? But the businesses that have survived are the ones that have been able to identify a system, right? Crack it and replicate it, create it, develop it into something that they can plug and play or pick up and go and deploy in different markets, and adapt for the market. So, for example, logistics businesses in Nigeria have to grapple and struggle with bad roads. It's just what it is. So you find that those that have stayed long in that space are people that have realized that, look, if I'm going to move my goods from point A to point B, then I can't continue to say until the government fixes the road. What I may need to do is look for more rugged vehicle assets that would last a bit longer before it breaks down. That sort of thing. For people who are doing maybe e-commerce or B2B commerce in the market, it could just be, identifying that people in the market would rather I deliver the goods to them. So if I deliver the goods to them, then they will buy from me versus somebody who's waiting for them to come and buy from their shop. But the thing about things like this is nobody is sleeping. So the moment you crack it and everybody sees that that's working for you, everybody jumps on the bandwagon, right? So again, businesses that have been able to thrive and grow over a period that I've seen in my experience are those that are able to identify something, crack it, and repeat it, or put in a system that enables them to repeat it or deploy it in different places. So for me, the advice would be, when you find what's working, you must develop a process around it or systematize it so that it becomes a part of your business, such that even when you are not there, it's in the DNA of the business, and then you can measure how the results are coming from your activity.
You did mention
particular system. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about, logistics and bad roads, but, sometimes you need to see the riders of this of these bikes. They just ride like I haven't seen, It looks like the things I see in the movies.
That conversation is that's a whole other topic, right? But I understand what you're saying. I mean, so again, so then comes the other elements of the business. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things in the ecosystem, in the value chain. So if the roads are good or the bikes are sturdy, do the riders understand the culture of the business that they work for? Beyond the culture, do they feel like they are a representation of that brand, or they are just in it for the money? Like, whether I look like whatever, just pay me my money as long as I've delivered these goods, right? And then another thing is, how do we even measure the quality of a good rider? Is it one that delivers on time and is looking dirty, quote and unquote, or one that doesn't deliver on time, but comes looking spick and span? So what exactly is value to the customer or to the business at this particular point in time? So it's just a lot of things. And so businesses need to be clear on what they prioritize. If you're a business and your delivery timeline is clear, 5 to 7 working days, your customers already know that you are not in a hurry to deliver. So you can then leverage that 5 to 7 working days to make sure that your riders are spick and span. One of their KPIs would then be that if you have a parcel to deliver, you have at least 4 days to make the delivery. On no condition should you arrive there looking dirty. But if your, value, what your business is known for is prompt delivery, and you don't care about what they look like, then, at the end of the day, you need to stand for something in your business. So I think that's
Precious. I'm being told that we have to go now, and unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd like to thank you so much. It's been very insightful on this other side. I do appreciate you, and I look forward to having more of this conversation with you.
Thank you, Mercy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, then. We have been speaking with Precious Adesina-Ola. She's the head of Growth Suppliers Technologies. And tonight, the focus has been about how businesses can actually thrive, whether small, micro, medium businesses or enterprise, whatever it is you target, how can they thrive using, smart ways, technologies. And like you heard her rightly said, one of the things she said is, in Pidgin, easy anywhere. So if you find what works for you, it works for you. Just stick with that. And of course, leverage technology to do all that you have to do. Well, that's the much that we can take. But thank you so much for being part of the show. It has been a great time, 8 o'clock up until this moment. Thank you so much. We'll hope we do this tomorrow. But before I go, I'd like that you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. And not subscribing, but you also need to interact further with us. Drop a comment. And most importantly, follow us on all of our social media platforms and engage. Now, remember to like, share, and comment. Invite your friends and family to watch as well and follow us. If you miss our quote for today, this is what he says. To build a business successfully, you must start small and dream big. In the journey of entrepreneurship, tenacity of purpose is supreme. And that's according to Aliko Dangote. I'll see you tomorrow, all things being equal, at 8 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening. My name is Mercy Ebuko. Have a good night.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.